Good evening, everyone. We are here tonight with the Hibbing Public Access TV and the Chamber of Commerce to hold a forum for the school board candidates for the election on Tuesday, November 8th. We have 6 people tonight, and several will advance and several will not to our election on November 8th. So we're going to spend the next hour and a half or 2 hours whenever Shelley Hansen cuts me off. And we're going to ask you questions. I'm here with Pastor Dan Erickson tonight. We put together a wonderful variety of questions for you. Hopefully all things that you will be able to answer. And if you can't, you can always pass it on to the next board person who has to answer it. But we will be shifting around in order of who we ask the questions to each time. I'll be doing 3 questions. Pastor Dan will do 3, and we'll get through as many of these as we can. We have about 50 questions here, so we may be here till 10 or 11 tonight, but no, just kidding. We don't have that many. So, Mr. Polcher, good evening.
Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning. Jeff is still on some kind of time. Jeff, why are you running for school board, and what would you like to accomplish?
Opening statements.
Oh, opening statements, that's true. 2 minutes, opening statement.
My name is Jeff Polcher. I'm a lifelong Hibbing resident. Graduated of Hibbing High School many years ago, actually 1975. Hibbing Community College graduate, and I attended UMD and got my couple undergrad degrees. 4 years ago, I retired from St. Louis County as a mental health social worker after 32 years. So I've been trying to enjoy retirement by staying active in the community. I'm still running a program in Hibbing in Virginia, working with methamphetamine and opioid users. A couple days a week keeps me occupied with that. I've been on the school board now for 12 years. I was elected 3 times and appointed once. When Rachel Sullivan took a judgeship, the remaining board members appointed me to fill out her term, then I ran for the third term. When I first got elected to the board, my grandsons were just starting kindergarten. And now they will be, if I get elected one more time, my goal is to give them their diplomas when they graduate. Something I've always thought would be really kind of memorable for everybody, including myself. And I think I bring a lot of experience to the board. I've been involved in labor negotiations with the unions. I've negotiated contracts with superintendents and administrative teams. So I bring a lot to the table in regard to that. I'm very experienced in budget preparations with our business manager as well as our superintendent. And I think I really enjoy spending another 4 years on the board. We have a very cohesive board right now. 6 very talented people that all bring their own skill sets to the table, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Jeff. Chris, would you like to take your 2 minutes for introduction?
I am Chris Elsner. I've been a resident of Hibbing most of my life. I currently own and operate a barbershop, which I've been doing for 25 years. I have had 1 child go through this school. I currently have 1 enrolled and hopefully a granddaughter soon enrolled in the school. I feel that I am in a little bit of a unique position with dealing with the public on a daily basis, where I get a little bit more input and am willing to get some input from the general public as to what they see as wrong or what they would like to see happen with our school district. I'm done.
Thank you. Marge?
Well, my name is Marge Martin, and I've lived in this community for most of my life. Having served on the school board for 1 year, it takes a couple years to figure out what's going on, and I think I've learned it well and have a lot to continue to give. I've been a teacher in laboratory science, retired at Hibbing Community College, a lab manager where I've dealt with managing personnel and large budgets. So I think I bring some experience, some energy to the board. Like Jeff said, we have a good cohesive board right now. Everybody brings a set of values and experience that works well.
Thank you. And I suppose to be completely transparent, I should mention that I had Sarah as a student just a couple of years ago, and I work with Kathy and Marge, so that won't help you with the questions. Sarah, your introduction, please.
I'm Sarah Gabarty. I've been resident here my whole life, born and raised. I've got 3 children, 17, 14, and 13. My husband is also from Hibbing. He is a school teacher in a neighboring district. I have a banking and business management background, so I deal with budgets, margin, gross profits, expenses, revenue every day. And I'm actually looking forward to shake up the school board. So I am up for the challenge and looking forward to just adding a little bit more insight and having representation for parents on there.
Thank you. Jonan?
Well, I'm Jonan. Lived in Hibbing pretty much my whole life. Just graduated in 2019 from the Hibbing High School. I'm pretty close to the school. I was involved in a lot of the activities. Basketball, baseball, football, student council. I even served with this board I was the student representative for the student council. And I want to help out my community. Obviously, I grew up here. I want to raise my kids here. Down the road, no kids on the way yet. But yeah, I'd really like to try to help out my town as best I can.
Thank you, Jonan. Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Nyberg. I'm a proud Hibbing graduate. I'm married. I have 3 daughters who are also graduates of Hibbing schools, and they all 3 of my daughters are married with children and live in Hibbing. So I have 10 grandchildren, very young, under the age of 8, or 8 and under, I should say. So I have, I want to keep the excellence in education that I've always felt Hibbing has provided. I want to keep that going for my grandchildren and for many years into the future. I've been on the school board now for 8 years and really enjoyed it. And like Marge said, it takes a year or even 2 years to learn everything as far as the financials and how everything works and exactly what the role of a school board member is. But I've learned that well, I think, and we've done some exciting things now in the past 8 years. And, such as the Early Childhood Center, we finally are getting artificial turf. We've done a lot of intervention for mental health. We've also improved academics. In fact, I'm proud to say our district has the highest MCA scores on the whole Iron Range at this moment. Very proud of that, proud of our teachers and staff that we ended up in that position. It's well-deserved. And I love Hibbing. I love the Hibbing schools, and I'm interested in continuing this work on the board for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Now, Jeff, let's get to the first question. Why are you running for school board, and what would you like to accomplish should you be elected?
I'm running again because I care about this district. I graduated from here 47 years ago, but I'm still very active. I've got 2 grandkids that are here. I want them to receive the quality of education that I received and my 3 kids received. All of my kids have grown, have successful careers since graduating. They're all in their early 40s or late 30s. And it just provides, like Kathy mentioned, our scores on MCA beat everybody in northeastern Minnesota. Some districts aren't even close. Our graduation rate is better than just about anybody in the state. I think our state average is like 88%. We're at like 95% where our kids graduate, which is a huge deal. What do I want to see accomplished? I think we've made some huge accomplishments in the last couple of years, which we're very proud of, whether it was adding mental health professionals for our community, our schools, school counselors, social workers. We've also hired a second resource officer that'll be floating amongst all 4 of our schools. He's another licensed police officer with the city of Hibbing. Things like that really improve the relationship with law enforcement, students in the schools. And I think if we can continue that, it's going to benefit all of our kids.
Okay, thank you. Chris, the same question. Why are you running for school board, and what would you like to accomplish if you're elected?
I am running for school board because it's been a good school district. My daughter graduated here, one of the top in her class, and has been very successful of that, because of that. I would like to see more of that continue. I would also like to see a lot more transparency. I would like to see more input from parents, more input from teachers and other members of our community to help get a better understanding of what people in our community want to accomplish throughout our school district. Oftentimes I feel that that has not been a priority over the last couple of years, and I would like to explore that and help the knowledge of what's going on in our school district go to the people a little bit more, so there is less confusion, and a little less fighting, a little less anger up by people, and so on down the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Marge, the same question. Why you're running and what you would like to accomplish if you are reelected?
Well, I'm passionate about public education. I'm a product of it. I have taught in it. And this is opportunity for each student to get the academic excellence and opportunities, skills that they're going to need to be successful in this world as they grow up and go out. And that's what and I want to accomplish that by getting even higher graduation rates and even higher MCA scores and making the culture of the school more positive. I'm very proud of the administration that we have in place right now. And it's a lot of it is supporting them and continuing on down this road. I think we came through that pandemic with flying colors. And we need to continue making those decisions and governing decisions that we've done.
Great, thank you. Sarah, why are you running for school board and what would you like to accomplish?
I graduated Hibbing High School in 2000, and when I think back to what it was like when I was there and looking at it now as it is today, it's very different. I know, they talk about the MCA scores being the highest in the district. That's part of the truth. It's on the Minnesota website, where if you actually look at our high school scores, we're actually not. Grand Rapids does beat us out. When you combine it with the Lincoln, then that is a true statement. When I look at our enrollment, it's been at a steady decline. That was given, those numbers were given last year by our business manager when he made a presentation at a board meeting, so that was also public information. I think Chris stole some of my thunder on the same things of, you want the community's input, you want parents' input, and I just really want to get politics out of our schools, and right now I just think that we can do better.
Okay, thank you. Jonah, why are you running for school board and what would you like to accomplish should you be elected?
Well, I'm running for school board because I, obviously, like I stated earlier, I want to help out my community, and kind of piggybacking off of Chris, there wasn't much transparency lately, and I would really like to help improve that, I suppose. And, so my family pulled out my siblings because the school changed. From when I graduated, if I look back, the school is a different place. And I want to make it a better place, I suppose.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, why are you running for school board again, and what would you like to accomplish?
I think I already maybe addressed why I was running for school board, to keep the excellence in education going for my grandchildren, all future children. And then what I'd like to accomplish, I have a couple A couple of things I've been thinking about, and I know that the rest of our current board is probably on the same page. We've done a lot with security of our buildings, but I think we can do more. Especially the front entrance of the high school. I'd like to really focus on that, making it more accessible and making it more secure. Because right now our most secure entrance is the athletic entrance, but I'd like to work on the front entrance of the high school. And I think there are other things we can do with security, you know, in light of how the world has changed and all these school violence that's been going on. I want to do as much as we possibly can to ensure that we don't encounter that type of thing in Hibbing, because truthfully, it can happen anywhere. So I want to make sure that we're well prepared. We did, like Jeff said, add a police officer this year, and that's been going very, very well. And we've done a lot of security initiatives, but I think there's always more to do, more cameras, whatever. So that's one of my things I'd like to accomplish. The other thing is I want to improve the sports facilities. I want to get more artificial turf. Now we've provided turf at the football field, but I would like to do more get more courts for indoor courts for basketball and turf for baseball. So those are a couple of the things. I have more, but my time's up.
Thank you. Chris, we'll start with you first with this one. What should be the skills and background a member brings to the board?
Skills and background to bring to the board? Openness, an ability to listen, to see to not be, in many cases, a dictator. That's my number one concern. There was times where I was attending meetings where people would speak their mind and it was duly noted and nothing was actually ever done or pursued in that fashion. So I would like to see more of that done, where I sound like a broken record, but that's definitely my number one issue. Transparency and working with the community and not dictating to the community.
Okay, thank you. Marge, the same question. What should be the skills and background a member brings to the board?
Well, I think it has to be the knowledge of being a member of a governing board. As a school board member, we set policy, directions, we represent the community, and it's the superintendent administration that carries those things out. A lot of things in our school system is dictated by state statute. And you have to be knowledgeable about state statutes and policies. But these policies that we implement and follow are vetted by, particularly we use the Minnesota State School Board Association, and they look at court cases, they're reviewed by attorneys. This is a regulated business. And we have to follow those rules.
Okay,
So
thank-
following rules, reading state statutes, understanding governing boards as opposed to operations is important.
Thank you. Sarah, what should be the skills and background a member brings to the board?
Well, first, the MSBA will provide training. I mean, we're gonna get training on the school finance and the management development. Now, am I gonna know the same or as much as opponents who have already been on the board? No, absolutely not, but I'm certainly willing to learn. You get that training. I don't think anybody expects somebody outside to know, understand, be able to comprehend all of the above. I mean, at some point, they didn't know this either. So I just think you have to be willing, you have to be able, you have to be somebody who is willing to put in the time, willing to listen, willing to look at alternatives, willing to look at situations maybe from other people's perspectives. But again, everything that's really valued, you will come, and it takes time.
Okay. Thank you. Jonan, same question. What should be the skills and background a member brings to the board?
Well, for me personally, like I said before also, I served on the school board already as a student representative. I was already in the Student Council, National Honor Society, Leadership Council. I was on all these different groups in high school, sorry. And I believe that the skills I learned there are pretty relevant, like leadership, being able to communicate with people. And if you ask my peers too, they all would agree, I suppose, that I do listen to their opinions and I do contemplate about it, and I think that that'll be pretty beneficial for what I'll bring to the table. I also am, as I mature and become a man, I guess, I do feel like I need to represent people. I don't know if that's just biology or how I was raised or what, but I need to represent people who maybe aren't represented. And to kind of bounce off of Marge's response, this should not be a business. We are representing the students and their interests, and also the parents. Obviously the school is important, but we do not only operate to make money and be a business. We should have the students in mind, at the forefront of our mind.
Thank you. Kathy, same question, the skills and background a member should bring to the board?
Okay, just to respond to Jonan, we're not in the business of making money, and we don't run as a business, but we do have legal things we have to function under. We have to follow, Marge is completely correct, we have to follow Minnesota statutes. We have to, or we can't be a public school district, okay? So Marge is completely correct. Skills and background needed. Educational background helps. I have a degree in elementary education. I was actually a sub in the Hibbing schools and taught a little bit, but then I kind of switched gears and went into HR. I have children. My children went to Hibbing schools from when they were little girls all the way through. I have grandchildren. I think you need to love children. You need to care about children and the education of all children in Hibbing. You need to be a good listener. And to say that the school board doesn't listen is an error. It is inaccurate. We have a public forum at every single meeting. Public can sign up anytime they want. We listen to them. By statute, we don't have to engage with them. We don't have to respond to them. We just simply have to listen to them. We listened. We took everything they've said under consideration. Then we analyze, we problem solve, and we, between the six of us, do the best we can, making the best judgment we can on every issue.
Thank you. And Jeff, you get the final word on this question. What should be the skills and background a member brings to the board?
First off, you have to work as a team. There are 6 people on that board, and everybody tends to have their own opinion on things. But to come to a consensus with 6 people, it's challenging at times, but you have to be able to be flexible. And what Marge and Kathy addressed, policy. I mean, you have to enjoy working on policies, or that's the primary focus of being a board member, is addressing policies, trying to get them changed if necessary. But the reality is, our policy manual is literally this thick. I don't know if anybody's ever read the thing cover to cover, but there's more stuff in there that mandates the way we operate. Commitment to kids. I spent my first 16 years as a social worker in child protection, working with families that are abused and neglected around the region. And I spent several years working in mental health, which has always been just my soft spot. That's why we're so strongly supportive of getting mental health services increased in our district. We've got a program out of Grand Rapids that's here that is just amazing. They're pretty highly qualified staff in our buildings that can work with kids every day of the week. And it shows. Our teachers will testify to the fact that our kids are better off now than they've ever been when it comes to their mental health.
Thank you. Marge, you get the first crack at the third question. What role, if any, should the board play in the school's day-to-day operations?
None. Really, the day-to-day operations is what the administration does. We're setting the policy and the direction. as a board member, we are one of 6 that comes to a decision, that decision gets implemented, and day-to-day operations, we really aren't part of it. If people have complaints about that, they should take it to the teachers, take it to the principal, take it to the superintendent. And as a board member, oftentimes, they'll take it to us. But the proper format is to start with the teachers, principal, superintendent, and we can listen. And then it gets to be us holding administration accountable for what's going on. Always finding out if what we hear in a board meeting is what's really happening. So accountability of the superintendent is an important role of a school board member.
Thank you. Sarah, what role, if any, should the board play in the school's day-to-day operations?
I don't necessarily know that they have to play a huge role in the day-to-day, but I certainly think that they have to be informed of the day-to-day. They should know what is happening in the school. They should know what is happening in the classrooms. I personally, I don't know that it's the safest route to go, and just depending on a superintendent and a principal to inform you. There's a lot of things that happen that I think go untouched, unnoticed, undiscussed. I think it's also important that you evaluate what is happening day to day to making sure that is it responsible? Is it in the best interest of our students, of our staff? If you don't know what's happening, that's a risky situation that we're putting our students and our staff in.
Okay, thank you. Jonah, what role, if any, should the school board play in the school's day-to-day operation?
So I was only part of the board for a little while, so I didn't fully get to see like the ramifications, I guess. If the board was super in tune with like the day-to-day, or if they should be more like standoffish, I guess. So I guess I'm not really sure about the best way to do that, if they should be super involved or less involved. But just like what Sarah said, they should be aware. Yeah, that's all I really got on that one.
Okay. Kathy, involvement of the board on day-to-day operations in the school?
The board should not be involved in day-to-day operations, but we do know what's going on because we have, at every meeting, one of the administrators presents information about specific things going on at their own schools. So we are very well aware of what goes on at each of our school buildings. We also hear presentations at our meetings from administrators on special programs, on curriculum, on mental health initiatives, everything. So we are very aware of what's going on. As far as day-to-day, do I know what's going on every day? If there's an emergency with a bus, say there's a bus accident or something in the morning, we will get an email immediately. We will be notified on something like that day. But other things that go on a daily basis are normally taken care of by parents, teachers, administrators, and then it goes to the superintendent. It goes up the ladder. And if it gets serious enough, it comes to us.
Okay. Jeff, same question. Role, if any, should the board play in the school's day-to-day operations?
What Kathy said. Basically, it's 100%. School board members set policy, we hire a superintendent. He's the CEO. He's the guy in charge. When it comes to hiring his admin team, he does that. We don't. He picks his leadership team to run the schools. We endorse them, obviously we have to approve it, but he's the one that really sets the tone on how the building operates. We don't get into the day-to-day stuff, like Kathy said. If something happens, whether it's a school bus accident, an incident with a staff person, we're immediately notified, whether it's by email or text message, a phone call. We often get calls from Trina, the superintendent's secretary, saying, such and such happened today. We just want you to be aware of it. It's been handled, case closed. So we do know what's going on, but to get involved in I don't want to say piddly or anything, but just the small microcosms of things that take place every day, we have people in place for that. And for us to try to, if you call me, you're going to get a different opinion than if you call Kathy or Marge. The superintendent calls us a lot. I speak to Rick probably 2 to 3 times a week. He'll call me, sometimes just to check in, or I'll just call him to check in with him to see how things are going. So we're aware. We're very, very aware of what's going on in the building.
Thank you. Chris, same question. What role, if any, should the board play in the school's day-to-day operations?
I'll agree with you guys. I don't think it should be we're involved day to day. That is, like you say, why we hire administration, to take care of that day to day. Nor do I really want to be part of the day to day of things that's going on in our schools. So yeah, I'll actually agree with you on that one. That's why we hire administrators and teachers to deal with our students.
Thank you. Now you get Pastor Dan for 3 questions.
I was just going to give a reminder that we are not giving time for rebuttal, partly because there's 6 of you. So the closing statement is to be 3 minutes. So if you don't have a chance to respond to something in another question, you might want to save that for the end. Let's see, Sarah, I believe you're first for this question. What's the proper role for parental involvement in the schools? And how do you think the sometimes conflicting demands between the teacher's need to instruct and the parents' wishes should be balanced?
Can you say the first part of that again, please?
What do you think is the proper role for parental involvement in the schools?
Well, I think there should be involvement. I think parents are their children's biggest cheerleaders. Children are their main priority, and I think that everybody wants what's best for students. I think teachers want what's best for students. I think that goes hand in hand. Teachers and parents, what their needs and wants are, if it's students first, if it's the academic excellence, then that goes hand in hand. I don't think there's a way to achieve that goal if they're working against one another. I think parents should be heard. I think their concerns should be addressed. And I think if and when that does happen, there's always a better outcome.
Okay, thank you. Joan, in your turn, what do you think is the proper role for parental involvement in the schools? And how would you balance the sometimes conflicting demands, which include the teacher's need to instruct and parents' wishes?
I think the parents should be very involved. I grew up and I would go home, tell my parents and my whole family what I learned at school, and they enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I think parents should be really involved. My parents actually were also, they would help out on field trips, anything the teacher needed, they'd help out that way. And I think it turned out really well. Parents knew the teachers knew the parents, and create a bond. And you don't want to fight on 2 different fronts. You don't want the teacher to tell your student something or your child something, and then the parent be telling you the students or their kid something else. So I think that if parents and teachers work together, then that'll produce the best outcome. And could you repeat the second part of that too?
Yeah, basically when there's a conflicting demand, the teachers need to instruct and the parents' wishes, if there's a conflict, how do you balance that?
So that kind of ties back to parents and teachers being in communication. As long as you're communicating, you can work out pretty much everything.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, what do you see as the proper role for parental involvement in the schools? And how do you balance the sometimes conflicting demands of the teachers and their need to instruct and the parents' wishes?
Of course, everyone knows that parent involvement is important in schools, and I think we have it in Hibbing. We have good parent involvement. Lots of parents volunteer for activities outside of the school day. We have parent groups, excuse me, PTAs at every school, maybe not the high school, but the lower grades have the parent groups. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the fundraising and special activities and holiday activities that we have at all the schools. We did have some special interest parent groups that really were trying to push the board to make policy that they agreed with and they wanted. And if we didn't do as they wanted, then we were accused of not listening and so forth. These special interest parent groups should be heard. I wanted to listen to them and I wanted to consider their opinions, but a school board cannot be swayed and pushed into a policy that is wanted by a special interest group of parents. They're just speaking for one or two certain issues. So we did have that this year, and that was a negative part of being on the board, actually. However, I did want to hear them, and I wanted to consider what they had to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, what do you see the proper role for parental involvement in the schools to be, and how would you balance the sometimes conflicting demands of what the teachers feel they need to do to instruct and what the parents would like?
You know, thinking back on that with when my kids were in school, the only way you could really communicate with a teacher was send a note with your child. And now with Parent Square and all these other computer programs, the parents know more now about how their kids are doing than ever before. You can almost instantaneously look at what their grades are, how they're doing. The teachers can give feedback that day on every student. All parents don't take advantage of that. You know, like everything in the world, there's a spectrum where you have some parents who don't give 2 cents for their kids' education. To them, it's just a Monday through Friday daycare center. Then you've got the other parents who really, really get involved in their kids' lives and want nothing but the best for them. Not only their kids, but all kids. And a lot of times there's conflict. Some teachers, you talk to me when they talk to me about it, you know, they don't get the parental involvement that they want. If that kid would just have a parent that cared, the kid could do so much better in school. But it just, for some kids, it doesn't happen. And as far as Kathy said, you know, special interest groups, we hear them out, but just coming to the board doesn't guarantee that we're going to give you what you want, what you're seeking. It's not practical and it's not possible.
Okay, thank you. Chris, your turn. What's the proper role for parental involvement in the schools, and how will you seek to balance the conflicting demands between teachers and their need to instruct and the wishes of parents?
Okay. Partially, what I hear from a vast majority of the teachers that I deal with in an interactive daily basis is there's not enough interaction from the parents, or it's to the extreme. You know, there doesn't seem to be a balance. And there needs to be something established to help establish more of a balance between the parents and the teacher relationship, definitely. As far as special interest groups from outside, I understand there's a lot of pressure on you last year. Unfortunately, there's also special interest groups for our kids on the inside of our school. And I don't think that's a proper place for special interest groups in our school. Teachers should be teaching, if you're a science teacher, you should be teaching science. Whatever your subject is, that's what you're there to do, is to teach that, not your political agenda. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Marge, your turn. What do you see as the proper role for parental involvement in the schools, and how would you seek to balance that sometimes conflicting demand of this is what the teachers need to do to instruct and the parents' wishes for their children?
Well, I think parental support is important to every child. And some children don't have it. But as part of the community, parents are a huge part of the community, And we need community support for all these schools. So I just think parental support, you can't get enough. As far as getting into the conflict, communication. Parents have got to be talking to the teachers. If they don't like that, then fine, go to the principal, work it out. But you're seeking understanding. And I think a lot of things can be accomplished when people hear one another out and reach a consensus of where we want to resolve this conflict.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we're at Jonah, he gets to go first. It seems that schools across the country are increasingly being asked to censor materials used in school libraries and classrooms. What should be the policy on censoring materials in the Hibbing schools?
What kind of materials? Like is it like sexual materials, or like what sort of materials are you?
I think we're thinking a wide variety of things. Yeah, books in the library.
Like Huckleberry Finn kind of stuff?
That would be one example.
I mean, I was forced to read Huckleberry Finn multiple years when I was in school. I didn't see anything really wrong with it. Sure, they say some language, but I believe in the right of free speech, so I didn't have anything against that type of language. If you use it denigratingly towards other people, yes, there's where you can come up with issues, but sexual content, on the other hand, I do fully disagree with that. You shouldn't have that pushed, or have your students and your children read that. I remember one time I was in, it was my junior year, and we did have to read there's a book, I forgot what it was called, but it was about this girl that got raped, and she stayed silent about it, and there was this big story, whatever. I didn't want to read that, but we had no option. So as far as that sort of story goes, I don't think the kids should be reading that sort of thing. Huck Finn, I think that's a different story. And I guess it varies based on each type of, what's the word? Category.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, the same question for you, as there's seemingly the increase in censored materials in school libraries and in classrooms, and as we just said, in a wide variety of settings. What should be the policy concerning censoring materials in the Hibbing schools?
Personally, I'm against censoring of anything, and having a censoring policy I don't believe is needed. The books in our libraries come from lists that are vetted by a national group of librarians, school librarians. The experts vet the list of books. That list is what we use to order books and put books in our libraries. So we don't have a need. I believe the experts know best as far as that. And if there are little things that might be off color, if a parent doesn't want their child to read something they think is inappropriate, the parent has every right in the Hibbing district to say, no, my child's not gonna read that. Or I don't want my child exposed to that. Parents have that right. We are a public school. So they can opt out of a presentation of a certain book that's being read, whatever. But as far as censoring, I'm completely against it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what else I can add to that, actually.
Thank you. Jeff, your turn. Schools across the country seem to be increasingly asked to censor different materials in the library or the classroom. What should be the policy on censoring materials in the Hibbing schools?
No censoring. Like Kathy mentioned, we're a public school and we've got the National Librarians Association, I think it's called, that they're the ones that recommend books for libraries. They're the professionals, they're well-educated. My concern is when you start censoring something is where does it end? Who makes this list of books that should be censored? Is it just a group of people, ad hoc group of community that they don't like it, so we can't read it? History is going to show that when you censor something, it snowballs out of control. It goes back to the previous question, parental involvement. If you don't want your kids reading the book, there's options for you. You can, if it's checking a book out of the library, monitor what your kids are getting, what books are checking out of the library. You don't talk to them about it. Explain to them why you don't want them to read it. As far as books assigned for classes, there are options. Teachers, you can meet with the teacher. There's a way of having your child opt out of that book if you're uncomfortable with it. But otherwise, no, I don't believe that we should be earning books in essence. This is 2022. I think we've been through that before.
Okay,
So I have a question.
thank you.
Is there a way we could make that public, I guess? Because when I was in school, that wasn't really broadcasted, that you could choose not to read a sexualized book.
Okay, I think our forum system, unfortunately, Jonah, doesn't allow that type of interaction, but you can certainly address that in others. Sorry about that. Chris, it is your turn. Schools across the country are seemingly increasingly being asked to censor materials for the classrooms, libraries. What should the policy of the Hibbing School District be in censoring materials?
I understand. The thing that, where does it start? Where does it end when we start censoring? All I can speak from is my personal experience, where we had a teacher that is no longer in our school district providing sexually explicit material to children. At some point it becomes grooming, and I'm not okay with that. Yeah, we're supposed to be open and free, but truth is some of the people that we trust are untrustworthy. So we have to have some sort of parental feedback and regulation. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Okay, Marge, question is for you. Again, with the increasingly schools being asked to censor materials, library, classrooms, what do you think the Hibbing School Board policy should be?
Well, I'm generally opposed to censoring. I think we're in a country where we have freedom of speech, and with those freedoms and those rights comes responsibility. And we have to be careful when we get into pornography and things like that. That becomes a criminal deal. As far as censoring books, just like Kathy said, we've got the school library group that vets these books, puts them on a list that they're acceptable to read and by age group. If somebody wants an alternative, a parent wants an alternative book, we try to provide that. I just think that we can't, there's a whole world of things out there that we might not agree with, whether it's social media or TV or behaviors that get modeled, and we have to look at the whole thing and be very careful about going after the books that we have in our school. I would hope that most of the materials, or all the materials, that we have and present in school are generally vetted and acceptable by a broad range of people.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, same question for you. Again, as schools across the country are seemingly increasingly being asked to censor materials in libraries and classrooms, what should the policy on censoring those materials be in the Hibbing schools?
Well, if we're making our decision based off of experts for our books and what's in these books is inappropriate, then I would say there's a problem with our decision-making, number one. It's not just books, it's the posters, it's the billboards, it's the presentations, it's more than just the books that we're just allowing, because if we don't, somebody's going to be offended or feel that they're being discriminated against. As far as, the children can opt out and read another book, well, now that student is now outcast. Now they have to sit in the hallway and read a whole different book. Now they are not interacting with that class. So sure, they can opt out and read another book, but now they're on their own. And you know what? We do have an obligation to keep those kids safe and with their education. And there really is not a reason why we should be promoting books that have that, and then I'll just say everything Chris said, I'm 100% for. He was spot on.
I'm not sure
Thank
if
you.
Chris
I'm
was
sorry, we're not
talking,
having rebuttal.
but was he making an accusation about the school district?
Rebuttal has to be reserved for your closing
Oh.
comments or an answer to another question.
Because I think the school
There's
district
no
needs to
rebuttal.
respond.
There is no rebuttal allowed during our forum of regular questions. Or if I let you rebut, he would have to rebut.
Okay.
And then you would rebut. And then he would rebut. And it would be 11 o'clock at night. You're first, Kathy, so you can say whatever you want right now. Disciplining students requires balancing students' rights with those of teachers and the administrators. What is the most effective approach for this discipline?
Right, discipline is obviously very needed. Teachers use many different methods, I think, in classrooms for discipline. And the question was, what do I think is the best way to discipline?
Well, just as far, an evaluation of how discipline is going or anything about discipline?
We don't have too many problems with discipline that I know of. We've even started something now, instead of just sending a student to this room to do nothing, basically. Now they actually have to interact and I think write about and think about what they did and how they can improve and things like that. I'd like to see, I'm kind of new wave where I'd like to see kids go and be able to go to a room and do yoga maybe to get, if they've been acting up or something, to do something like that to cool themselves down. We actually just put in these rooms in our schools for discipline problems and for doing something like that, where you go in and you think about what you did and how you can improve, and maybe you write about it. What are the rooms called? I'm trying to think. I can't remember what they're called, but we're trying all these different things. But I really, truly don't think we have a problem with discipline. Not much is brought to us. And, we have everything, we have a lot of good policies, and we enforce them. And we have our disciplines all laid out in a policy.
Okay, thank you,
So-
Kathy. Jeff, disciplining the students requires balancing those students' rights along with those of the teachers, the administrators, the other students. What do you see as the most effective approach? How do you evaluate the approach of the Hibbing district?
Like Kathy said, we don't deal with discipline a lot unless it's at a higher level. We've had to alter our policies over the years, specifically related to sports, of kids on our athletic teams who are caught drinking, et cetera. That gets to be real serious, and that's when parents really get involved, and that's when we start getting the calls. As far as, I think it was called a stimulation room. Is that, we just had a presentation on it last week.
Multisensory.
Multi-sensory room.
Multi-sensory, yes.
That's right, where kids can go and just kind of cool off a little bit. And listen to the presentation at the last board meeting. They sound very, very effective at calming kids down, letting cooler heads prevail. But again, most of our stuff that we deal with is adjusting disciplinary actions for some of our athletes, our student athletes.
Okay, thank you. Chris, same question for you. Again, recognizing that disciplining students requires balancing, again, students' rights, teachers, administrations. What do you see as the most effective approach in doing this, and how do you evaluate what the Hibbing School District is doing?
I'm old school. Vast majority of the time I will side with the teacher. My child's come home and been complaining about this and that, and I'm like, be quiet, to put it politely. And I truly believe that our teachers are doing the best job to discipline these children. Unfortunately, some of the disciplinary actions that, when I was in school, that were effective are no longer a part that they are allowed to do. I'm not saying bring back spanking kids by any means, but I do believe that we need to trust our teachers and our administrators, and hopefully they're doing a great job. I really haven't heard too many complaints, particularly lately with how things are being handled with disciplinary actions, but I believe that they should be a broad spectrum. If this is what happens, this is what's going to happen, not based upon an individual. And I'm done.
Thank you. Marge, disciplining the students is, requires that balance between students' rights, teachers and administrators, their rights. What do you see as the most effective approach, and how do you evaluate the district in their discipline efforts?
Well, I think that the first thing is the consequences have to fit the crime. But most of the time, it's going to be a means of teaching respect. Respect of the student teacher, respect of the self, respect of other students. And I think by communications and talking it out, you're looking for resolution that it shouldn't become a problem, that it's dealt with readily in school.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, disciplining the students, of course, requires balancing those students' rights, teachers and administrators' rights. What do you see as the most effective approach, and how do you evaluate the school district's discipline efforts?
Well, I think discipline, number one, has to be for all. It's not just for some. If you've got students that do the same thing, then the discipline should be the same for each student. I also think that, yeah, it does have to make sense. The punishment has to meet the crime. And does it make sense for that discipline action to get the end result that you want of it not reoccurring, to change the situation, to make it better? I too think that respect for staff is huge. I think, right now, students there's no fear because they kind of feel like, well, I can do what I want. What are you gonna do? Send me to the office? Big deal. And I think that adds stress to the classroom and to the staff. And I don't think that is fair to them. I think that they should be allowed to give some sort of punishment. But I also think, looking at our handbook, that it needs to be black and white and not gray. There's a lot of things in there that are able to be decided on the person giving that punishment, and not, you do this once, it's this. If you do this once right now, it may be this or this, depending on how I personally feel about it. And I think that's bad.
Okay, thank you. Jordan, your turn. Disciplining students requires balancing the students' rights as long as the rights of the teachers and administrators. What do you see as the most effective approach in doing this, and how would you evaluate how the district is doing?
Well, obviously you want to communicate with the students, because if they're doing something wrong, they could just be seeking attention or a myriad of other issues or whatever. Sit down with them, kind of talk to them. Obviously, if it's a recurring thing and they're just doing it just to spite you, that's a different issue. But a lot of times it's going to be because maybe they're lacking something at home, or maybe they just need to run around at recess or whatever. Not really applicable, I guess, for high school, at recess. But maybe go for a walk at lunch or something. But I agree with pretty much everybody here on that. Punishment should fit the crime. If you do something wrong, you should be punished accordingly, and that should be apparent what the punishment would be.
Okay, thank you. I yield to the gentleman from Hibbing Community College, Mr. Potts.
Well, my boss tells me we have time for 2 more questions, plus closings, right, boss?
Possibly 3, but I was afraid we're looking at 2 and then still keeping time for 3 minutes for closing this.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're back to you again. Do you regularly visit classrooms and speak with students, teachers, administrators, and do you regularly attend school-related events?
I do go to school events. I mean, I got 2 my grandsons who are very active in hockey, and I do attend all of their hockey meets. Fortunately, one of them plays golf, and it's kind of hard to attend a golf tournament or anything, but I do go out and one of the benefits, I guess, of being on the school board is you get a free season ticket to Hibbing Youth Sports. Right now, my wife says I'm infatuated with the Hibbing football field because I go over there twice a day to take pictures and just to see it, because it's such an amazing facility. And if I have time permitting, I'm gonna head over there again tonight because they're still working on it. But I do talk to teachers. In the past, we used to try to meet with them at lunchtime, but it just became, their lunchtime is work time for them. They call it a break, but it really isn't. They're in their dining area eating, but they're also, collaborating and talking, so we stay away from that. I do stop by the schools occasionally, elementaries especially. I always like to see what our K2 buildings are doing. I love going over to the new addition at the Washington Early Learners Program. If anybody's got a chance, it's worth sticking your nose in there someday. It's an absolute fascinating concept and a huge improvement. But no, the teachers, a lot of our friends of mine know.
Chris, same question. Do you regularly visit classrooms and speak with students, teachers, administrators? Do you regularly attend school-related events?
I regularly attend pretty much all school events. My son's involved in sports, and my daughter was involved in Key Club back in the day, so I attended all of that. I pretty much go to any chance I get because I am a member of the community and I know so many kids, and it's awesome to see. I would love to go into the school more, but we're living in a different world where we're not allowed to really go to the school unless you're a school board member, because of security and stuff like that. But yes, I definitely love going to it. I cannot wait to go see the new football field. I am ecstatic that has happened, and I would love to go see it. Like when? Keeps getting pushed back, but yes.
I keep thinking of that phrase, be careful what you wish for. Marge, the same question. Do you regularly visit classrooms and speak with students, teachers, administrators? Do you regularly attend school-related events?
Well, just like Chris said, visiting classrooms and coming into the school is a different animal than it used to be, so it's limited. But certainly, I come into the school during hours and see what's going on. In the classrooms, not particularly. Attending school events, probably limited, because living out at Side Lake, it's an effort to come, but I love to come to events that are presented in the auditorium. I just love going to those events. And I do plan to go to homecoming on October 19th, rain or shine, to see that new football field.
Sarah, the same question. Do you regularly visit classrooms and speak with students, teachers, and administrators? Do you regularly attend school-related events?
I don't attend classrooms for the same reasons that were already mentioned. When my children were in elementary, I feel like I attended the classroom quite a bit. I've always tried to be a parent volunteer, still am, go on the field trips. I am in the school a lot with my kids' activities. I also attend the school board meetings as much as possible. Yeah, my kids are involved in sports, so that keeps us busy, it keeps us involved, keeps us young and moving. I have friends and family that are teachers, and so I feel like even though I'm not in the classroom, I still get that communication from them and good conversation. But once I'm on the school board, I certainly do plan on spending time in the classrooms.
Okay, thank you. Jonah, the same question. Do you regularly visit classrooms and speak with students, teachers, and administrators? Or do you regularly attend school-related events? And not at IRE.
So I, up until the last couple of years, since I graduated, I've had to take care of, some of my schooling, that sort of stuff, but I still go to all the events I can. I was in the classroom up until right when I graduated. So I talked to all my peers. I knew what was going on. I still had some friends that are still in the high school and used to have relatives there, but now they've gone a different route. But yeah, I'm involved in a lot of their stuff. I go to the hockey games, softball. I'm all over the spectrum. But yeah, I guess I'm just involved and try to stay up to date on everything best I can.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, same question?
Yes, since I had the 3 girls in the school district, I was really involved at the Washington School with the parent group. Unfortunately, I was actually president of that PTA back in the day. I don't know, I think because no one else wanted to do it. But, so I was super involved at the Washington School and in the school all the time. Right now, I go to all the sporting events, football games, hockey games, basketball games for boys and girls. So I regularly attend school events. And then now that my oldest granddaughter is in 3rd grade, so she's at the Lincoln, but she was at the Greenhaven along with my 2nd oldest grandson. And so now we've been going to Christmas programs and the different holiday programs for them. So I'm in the schools quite a bit. And my husband does, he works at the scorers table, I guess you call it, for all these sporting events. So we're super involved in all the sport. It seems like all the sports that go on in Hibbing and have been for many, many years.
Okay, thank you. Chris, you get the next question first of all. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very familiar, 10 being not very familiar, how would you assess your knowledge of district educational offerings and services?
Pardon me, with the offerings and services?
Yeah,
of our
offerings
school?
and services.
Not very well. I'll go with a 4. How's that sound? Simply, or the other way. Wasn't.
1 being the best.
I'll
10
be
being-
like a 7. I'm not
Okay.
really familiar with everything that's offered throughout our school. Simply because, as a parent, mainly as a parent, I try to support what my child is interested in and support him as best as a possibility as I can as to what classes he is interested in and so on down the line. Now, I would like more knowledge of that. I would like to know what is else available and what other children are interested in and the parents are interested in, and help it broaden my knowledge of that. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job if I make it here.
Like I said, be careful what you wish for. Marge, the same question. On a
1
scale
being
of
the
1
best,
to,
huh?
on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being most familiar, 10 being least familiar, how would you assess your knowledge of district educational offerings and services?
Probably 2 or 3.
Okay.
There are so many offerings and opportunities, it's hard to keep track of them all, but certainly serving on the school board, a lot of them do come in front of us. And I think it's important to have a large number of offerings looking to catch the interest of every student in the school. If we could get every student connected, that would be an opportunity for them to have a more positive outcome as they're going through school.
Thank you. Sarah, the same question. On a scale of 1 being very familiar, 10 being least familiar, how would you assess your knowledge of district educational offerings and services?
I'm going to give myself a 6. I know that we do offer a lot of great things. My son, for one, as you know, is a PSEO student. I love that. I did it when I was in high school also. So I think that's a great opportunity. I know that we offer the SITS program, the Career Academy. We have got great athletics that we offer, which is fantastic. I know we've got a great special ed program. My sister's a special ed teacher in the Duluth district, so that's pretty close to my heart. And you know what, when you're at these meetings, you're talking about the mental health, I constantly hear about what we've added to help with that. They just mentioned here the multi-sensory room, that's wonderful. So yeah, I think we offer a lot that benefits our community and our kids. I also like the little things that we do. It's not really academic, but even the appreciation day for staff and teachers. I mean, that's something that maybe not every place offers, and it's those little things that make a difference.
I appreciate it too. I've been named a couple times. And you're right, no other schools I know do that, so it's always kind of nice. Jonah, on a scale of 1 very familiar to 10 least familiar, how would you assess your knowledge of district educational offerings and services?
Well, I would give myself a 1, but then I didn't really know about all the newer mental health things and that sort of stuff. So I'll settle for a 2. When I was in the high school, I was involved in pretty much everything, from sports, I was in the choir, I did, a big range of things. And I was involved in the community. I did like national night out for the police officers and first responders. And so I was all over the place. And so I'd say I have a pretty good understanding of what high school does and how the school operates and what we're all about.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, same question. On a scale of 1, very familiar, 10, least familiar, how would you assess your knowledge of district educational offerings and services?
I think I would say I'm a 1. When I worked at Hibbing Community College, I partnered with Hibbing High School and Chisholm High School actually, and worked a lot on what the courses that were required, what was electives. I was trying to promote technical and career education in the job that I had at the college. So I got really familiar with what we offered in Hibbing. As Sarah mentioned, we have the career academies for the kids that are interested in the tech programs, or maybe going on to a 1 or 2 year career and technical degree. We have lots of college credit classes. We have many college credit classes right at the high school right now, along with the PSEO, where they actually go to the community college. We've increased the number of electives, and that's always been a big deal for me. I want kids to have the opportunity to take art or quilting or welding or something like that. And I think because we just went to we increased from a 6-period day to a 7-period day, that gave our students more opportunity to take electives. And that was really a big concern of mine, because I think that the more you expose yourself to different areas, the better you are and the more well-rounded of a person you are. And then with our early childhood programming and our community ed, I think I pretty much know exactly what we offer in our district.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, you get the last word. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 very familiar, 10 least familiar, how would you assess your knowledge of district educational offerings and services?
I wish I could say a 1, but it's probably a 2 or even a 3. We are constantly adding different programs for our students and families. Just the creation of our early learners program at the Washington, we're giving opportunities to kids 3 years and up, which is unheard of in most districts. To provide, putting Head Start and ECFE under one roof was a huge investment for us. But there's just so many things out there, just besides athletics and extracurricular activities. There's the special services, our special ed department has so much to offer parents. Unless you're involved in that system, you oftentimes just don't know what's available, because there's so many opportunities for families. And students, there's something, we always say there's something for everybody in Hibbing when it comes to opportunities in school, whether it's choir or athletics, or acting. There's just a lot going on, and it's available to everybody. And our only issue, I think, is that some kids we just can't get involved, and I don't know what the solution is. We have a significant number of kids who don't take advantage of any programs. I'm surprised how, I think our former athletic director told us like only 10% of kids in the district actually take part in athletics, which is that's just not fair.
Well, I have to say one thing. It's nice that no one answered 10 to this question. That wouldn't be good. Well, Shelley tells me we have time for closing. You want one more? Oh. Yes, I do.
We'll be burned out.
I'm trying to think who I started with last time, Chris. Marge, what is the best way to recruit and retain quality educators in Hibbing schools, and what could the board do to promote such efforts?
Hibbing has a pretty good salary schedule, and I think that, and good benefits, and I think that's attractive to a lot of teachers that have experience. We have to continue to have good administration, good leadership that makes teachers want to be part of the great education that we offer here in Hibbing. And we just have to be working all the time to make this the best it can be, because people want to be part of the best opportunities around.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah, same question. The best way to recruit and retain quality educators, and what can the board do to promote such efforts?
I think what's really important is working on that retention and really understanding and wanting to ask why they're leaving. That should be first and foremost. I think money isn't everything to everybody. Yeah, everybody needs it, everybody wants it, but you also want to go to work where you feel valued, where you feel heard, where you feel like you're making a difference, where you wake up on a Monday and you're excited to go rather than dreading going Monday morning, Sunday night. I think it also, just the environment, your working environment is so critical to how you perform at work and how well you perform your job. So I think when doing maybe interviews, really finding what their passions are, what's important to them, and then keeping that in mind as the years go on. I think evaluations are important too, not just on them, but getting their honest feedback without fear of, a bad review. But I think finding out why people are leaving is huge.
Okay, thank you. Jonah, same question. The best way to recruit and retain quality educators, and what can the board do to promote such efforts?
So a lot of it comes down to just the atmosphere of the school. About a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months, I just finished a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And it kind of elaborated on this topic. If you can identify your why, like why you get up in the morning, like what you're striving for, especially with teaching, you want to create the best education for the kids. If you can elaborate that, then people of the mindset will just flock to your association or to your group. So if you proclaim what you're standing for and what you're all about, the right person will come. And then the interview process can help filter out to see who the best fit would be.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, the same question. The best way to recruit and retain quality educators, and what can the board do to promote such efforts?
Okay, we have very few educators that leave our district. We do have a lot of coaches that leave, I'll have to say, but that's a whole different issue. That's probably pressure, from parents, things like that, as far as the coaches leaving. So that's an issue right now, but as far as educators leaving, we really don't have many leaving. When we hire them, we seem to get a lot of applicants. Recently, I know we've had many, many applicants for the teaching positions that we had open. And I think it's because we do pay well and we provide good benefits also. But I think we need to continue working with our teachers union and, ensuring that we give professional development opportunities to the teachers. It's not just the pay and the benefits. They need, we need to ensure that we offer classes and things where they can develop themselves professionally. And then make sure that our administrators are valuing the teachers in their schools and giving them compliments and kudos and everything when they do a good job. And that'll be it. I think that's how you retain teachers, and we do a really good job of it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Jeff? Best way to recruit and retain quality educators, and what can the board do to promote such efforts?
Historically, Hibbing has been a place people want to teach. We just hired a science teacher last year who I was very familiar with from Floodwood, an old friend of mine, and we recruited her. We got her to come here, and she was shocked when she saw the salary schedule, because we do pay our staff probably higher than anybody north of Duluth, for sure. A lot of our staff are former students here. They want to come back, and they want to stay. They've got family here. I know Kathy's got a daughter that's teaching here. People want to come back and teach in their old alma mater. I had a friend one time, he was from Deer River, and he got hired here And he was a little old, he was in his 40s when he got hired. But so when he got the call from, at the time it was Bob Beluso, our superintendent, saying that he got a job here, he said the first thing he did is I broke down crying. He said, because I got hired at the Hibbing High School. He says from the time he was in college, 20 years before that, his dream was to come teach him. And he's not from here, he's from the West Range, but his dream was to come to Hibbing. And there are still people that have that feeling about Hibbing. It's a great place to work. We have great administrators, a great superintendent, and a great board, I'll admit that. But people want to come here.
Thank you, Jeff. Chris, don't pat yourself on the back too hard, Jeff.
I can't bad shoulders.
Chris, the same question. What's the best way to recruit and retain quality educators, and what should the board do to promote this?
Money doesn't hurt, but it definitely helps. Yes, we are one of the better paid school districts, as far as I know, in the state. But it's not necessarily always the answer. I know, like International Falls I have an aunt that teaches up there, paid better than here, and they perform not as well on their MCAs. So that's not necessarily the answer. Open communication between the administration and the teachers. Thank you. Some more teacher appreciation things. Maybe some performance incentive pay would be a wonderful idea. If you're a good teacher, you make more. Not simply because you have this amount of time, this is how much you're gonna get paid. Thank you.
That's good. Well, it is time for closings, right? Let's start, instead of going this way around, let's start with you, Kathy. 3-minute closing.
Okay. Is this just a summary?
You can say whatever you want.
Well, I would appreciate everyone's vote. I think the most important thing about voting for me is I'm experienced. I've been on the board for 8 years. I think we've done some wonderful things. Academically, we're in great shape. We got through COVID very, very well. We put in the new early childhood center. We added that onto the Washington School, and that was a big goal we've had for many, many years. We finally got some artificial turf now out at the football field, and that was also a big goal and much needed. So we've done some really exciting things, and I think if you vote for me, the things are gonna keep coming, because I'm gonna push for them. And I know what it's like to be on the board. We have like we've mentioned several times, we have a great cohesive board. We work well with each other, and we seem to get things done. We really have made progress. Also, I mean, I've got education. I've got the education, got a degree in education and a master's in human resources. All of my jobs, even before my last 20 years at Hibbing Community College, where I taught an employment skills class and did a grant administrator job, even prior to that, all the jobs I ever had in my life were education related. I did everything from teaching swimming, to teaching synchronized swimming, teaching Upward Bound. I've taught Upward Bound. I ran a whole program at National Steel at the mine for an adult education program for about 6 years. So everything I've done in my life has been people related and education related. And so I think if you're looking for someone that is familiar with education and how it all works, and who is also extremely familiar with the details of the Hibbing district, then I would be the person you'd want to vote for. I am a problem solver. I try to use common sense. I analyze, think about, research, analyze, listen to everything I can learn about an issue or a problem, and then I make my decision. And right now, I try to be in agreement. I listen to my fellow board members, and we try to be in agreement so we're a cohesive unit and can all vote on an issue and pretty much be in agreement on that issue. We all have different opinions, obviously, but we can come to a consensus usually. So I think we've gotten very good at that. We haven't always been as good. And so you know, in summary, I've got grandkids in this district. I love Hibbing. No one loves Hibbing more than me, believe me. And I love the Hibbing schools. So if you want a common sense approach and someone who cares and loves Hibbing, vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonas?
All right. So I'm trying to pursue my own interests, but I see a need for me to run. So I'm trying to offer myself to the school and to the students and to the parents, try to help them out as best I can. I think overall, I probably struggled with trying to voice what I stand for. So I did prepare a little something I'm just going to read through, just to make sure there's no gray area with me, I guess. Just to put it, put myself out there. Have you guys can take it or leave it, I guess. Politics are local. I'm unable to change the world, but I can change my world. This is my home, where my family is. And this is where I'd ultimately like to raise my family. I also want to regain the pride in the city and help others once again be proud to be a Blue Jacket. I want to keep the kids on their path of education, not indoctrination, and be a part of adjusting it to help them learn things that will be useful in their futures. I do not believe in mandates or forcing free Americans to comply with things that are not constitutional. Wrong is wrong under any circumstances. And Martin Luther King Jr. stated, you have a moral obligation to disobey unjust laws. So as regards to standing up to a state mandate, we got to do what's right. That's just what I believe. I want to be a voice for the people, and I think that since I just graduated and I had younger siblings in the school, I have some pretty good insight into the students' needs as well as the best direction for the school. I put the Bible first and the Constitution next. That's how I live my life. That's how things are oriented for me. I might not know exactly what policy is best, but I will make my decisions based on the Bible, Constitution, and my family. And this seems like the best way for me to help out my city is by joining the school board. So if you want me, that's what I stand for. There's nothing up in the air. That's how I will look at things. That's me.
Thank you. Sarah?
I guess I just want to bring back having the kids be first. I think that has gotten lost in the last couple of years. Certainly, parents' voices have definitely been lost, and I want them to have a voice on the school board. I want teachers who have felt that they have to keep their head down and their door closed and their mouth shut. I want them to have a voice on the school board. I truly believe that good and bad have to be addressed rather than ignored and only focusing on the good. Yes, recognition is great, but if we continue to brush the bad under the rug, it doesn't go away, it just builds. I'm not a yes person, I'm a why person. So when it comes to policy, that was brought up a few times during tonight. Yes, there are policies, there are things that are, required by the state. But I guess I would ask, where's our freedom in that? What freedoms do we have within that policy to make for our own district? It's not set in stone, black and white, of everything from the law of we have to do this. There is some wiggle room there that the board gets to decide on for our own district. So I don't feel like we can just say it's all on policy. I also really want to bring back transparency, honesty 100%. I don't really sugarcoat things. I'm very blunt. I'm very to the point. And I believe people want to know the truth, the whole truth. They don't want it manipulated to make it look more appealing. And I feel that we owe all our students and our staff and our community and our parents what that is. I feel like in the last couple of years that again has been lost. The other thing too is, school board meetings, they're recorded. Social media, you can get to those postings anytime you want. So it's very easy for people to say things, but it's very easy to go back and actually see people's actions also. And to me, actions speak louder than words today.
Thank you. Marge, your closing.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the Chamber for sponsoring this forum. It's always good to be able to discuss these things and hear other people's views. I want to thank the voters 4 years ago for electing me and ask again that people vote. I'm proud of what we've done on the board in the last 4 years. There's a new administration in place that I think has open door policies. I think we work to be transparent and to listen to people's needs. We've been a board of action. We've built and opened the ECFE. That's something that's been talked about and needed in the community for years. We've improved sports facilities. We have good personnel. I think we're looking for collaboration in any way that we can with other districts to be as all-encompassing, to give students every opportunity that we can to help them find their interests, find their niche, find their passion, and succeed. It's all about students.
Thank you. Chris, your conclusions?
First of all, I will say I was a little apprehensive about coming here because a lot of the questions are geared towards, the only way you can answer that is if you have been on this board. Like you mentioned, there is going to be a learning curve. Definitely, it's going to take a while to get to know the job. I would also like to say I'm thick-skinned. If somebody has a problem with it, what on my job, if I make it on here, please come talk to me. I'm not gonna make accusations that I'm accusing the school district or things of that nature. Please, this is a public office. Part of being a public official is being held accountable to the public. And that is something that I would like to bring, to be held accountable. Not to, okay, next. I also would like to see, one thing I would like to make a statement is, I believe politics should be left out of school. I don't believe that they should be taught to our children unless you're in a political science class. Not simply by our teachers expressing their opinions. And yes, this does happen. Part of my job also, I deal with hundreds of children, parents, teachers, and they express their concerns, especially from the kids. They don't feel like listening to a teacher's political opinion. They're there to learn, and that's what they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Well, first I'd like to thank the Hibbing Chamber of Commerce again and Shelley for organizing this, and Steve and Dan for hosting again. This is 16 years ago I was in this same format, sitting over there with June Hendrickson sitting next to me. And if you want to be intimidated when it comes to answering questions, you sit by June. She was an icon in our district and unfortunately passed away earlier this year. But I learned more from that woman than anybody else in all my years on the board. And probably the most important thing she taught me was when you're making a decision in a position like this, the only question you have to ask yourself is it in the best interest of the kids? And she said, if you agree with that, you're doing your job as board member. And I've always kind of held to that. We're here for the kids. We're not here to move up to a higher office. We're not here to make money. We get FYI, board members get $300 a month to serve on this. Sometimes that comes out to almost $5 an hour because there are many nights talking on the phone with teachers, students. I got grandsons who call me up routinely for different school issues. But I want to be back on this board for 4 more years. When I started this, I did take a 2-year break at one point because I wasn't sure I wanted to stick around, but after coming back, this is where I'm comfortable, this is where I can bring a lot of experience and a lot of great things that we've done as a board. Our facilities right now have never been in better shape than they are right now. You can walk through the high school or any of our other schools and you'll see that they are absolutely flawless. We have invested millions of dollars in the Hibbing High School, and it shows. That building looks now as good now as it did when it opened 100 years ago. But it's still the high school in Minnesota. Everybody knows about the Hibbing High School. We've graduated some phenomenal people out of that building. Thousands of doctors and lawyers and entertainers, leaders in the community, leaders in industry. And we're gonna hopefully continue to do that for another 100 years. We have a great school district. There's no getting around that. COVID kicked our butts. It happened in every district, but we're coming out of it much faster than any other district around as well. We just got the MCA scores a week or so ago, and our rate of return to normalcy on our scores is significantly higher than everybody else in the region. Again, we have a cohesive board, and I look forward to working with hopefully the same people we have. I mean, we've got a great board, and I hope to stay that way.
Thank you. Well, I would like to thank Shelley for all the work she did organizing this. She is an exemplary chamber director. Ron Workala has probably the best technological expertise in Minnesota. He also gives me a gentle prod every once in a while to ask questions that maybe most people wouldn't have asked me. I'd like to thank Pastor Dan, who's my, 20 plus years now, I think, doing questions together. Yeah, we were both, boy, it's long ago than that. And I'd like to thank all of you. I think one of the most valuable things of every election is giving people in the public the chance to actually listen to people, not pick up a little one paragraph blurb in the newspaper. They actually get to respond to questions that voters might hopefully be concerned with. So thank you all for giving your time tonight and for giving your time for the last couple of months that you've been running. And, we wish we were in a system where all of you would win on the 8th, but those of you who do win, congratulations. Those of you who don't give up. Run again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.